Okay, so how our brains try to solve shame. And this is very interesting because what you can see is the graphic on screen. This will be a basis to this idea of the persona, the ideal self, and the real self. This is just a basis. So we're going to develop this idea later on. And what tends to happen is we develop what you may call shame personas, but I want to focus here mainly on the internal critic and where it comes from. So if we are being told on an unconscious level, subconscious level, that we are not good enough, this is how our brains will react. So if you're constantly getting this message that you're not good enough, you'll develop this shame-based critic, which is that gray circle outside the real self. And obviously anyone with a critic, like I have a strong critic. This is what led me to this, to understanding this, was why do I have this strong critic? Anyone with that will understand that it's constantly berating you. It's constantly telling you to do something. It's constantly getting in the way. And as we'll develop this, as we'll go a lot further into this course, we'll understand that there's a way to not only silence the critic, but get it to help you, get it to work for you rather than constantly berate you. And it has its own personality, it has its own part. It is a part of you, and it did serve a purpose. It is a defense mechanism. It does have there's no point in shaming it. There's no point in trying to cut it away, get rid of it, like I see a lot of therapists do. You cannot outwork it. You cannot silence it. You have to come to agreement with it. And that's very important. So we'll develop that idea later. But for now, let's just look at this model. So as we're berating ourselves, as the inner critic is berating ourselves, as that's going on, we still have a big part of us, and this is inherent in all of us. You still want to be loved. I still want to be loved. I still want to have value. I still want to be a part of something. I still want to be connected to other people. But because the real self, or what you think is the real self, your vulnerable self got rejected, it got abandoned, it believes it's not good enough. When it was made vulnerable, when it was put forward by its caregivers, the caregivers said, no, sorry, we don't. It perceived that the caregivers think that it doesn't have value. It internalizes that message, but it's still asking the question, I want to have value, but we cannot get rejected again. So what it does is it protects it with personas. It puts on masks. It says, we cannot make ourselves vulnerable. We cannot put our real self out there. We have to wear masks. We have to pretend to be something we're not. And this is where it gets interesting, right? So as we develop this idea, you'll see that people are doing this a lot. They're pretending. That's the persona, and it's a mask, like I said. But it all comes from that ability to not want to be vulnerable. And we'll talk about this in a different way later. But these personas you'll see in other people, they pretend, they feel like if I act this way, then I'll get the love that I need, and it doesn't work. That's key. It never satisfies. It never gets there because it isn't real. You're not connecting with the real self. It's always superficial, and we're going to develop that idea later, and the way that the persona in other people as well as you, and you'll see it a lot, how that persona manifests. And it's one of my favorite parts of psychology. It's understanding how different people play these roles, but they put on this mask. And then we've got the ideal self. Okay, so this is another shame persona, the ideal self. So this fourth circle, the idea of self, is how you perceive yourself to be if you are perfect. If you were only like this, everybody would love you, everybody would respect you, everybody will accept you. This is the perfect version of you, and you can see where the problem lies. It's completely unrealistic. You're never going to reach it, and it can cause a lot of problems because just chasing that all the time sets you up for a lot of failure. The ideal self is there because you don't accept the real you. You feel like the real you isn't good enough, so you've had to create this ideal self to protect, in some ways, something to strive for. So the other problem is that you're always trying to reach this ideal self. Then the shame-based critic will come in and say, well, we're not reaching it, so therefore, well, you're not good enough. And it will just create this even more painful feeling. So you try harder, you try and reach there, you run out of energy, you burn out. The shame-based critic is even louder. And then eventually you sabotage, which makes you maybe binge eat, you go to addictions, you go to all of these things that you just want to numb out that feeling of feeling shameful. Basically, you get triggered. So this ideal self, this unrealistic standard, is always there, and it isn't until you actually let go of these or understand them, which we're going to develop later, like I said, only then can you really step out of this vicious circle, because that's what I was in for so long. I was always trying to reach this ideal standard so people would accept me, and the critic was just constantly bringing me down, bringing me down, bringing me down. Maybe you relate. Okay, so as we go along in this course, you're going to see how all of this you can work around and work with, and it's actually amazing. It's life changing once you understand this. I promise you, it's absolutely life changing. Okay, so just to recap, the ideal self is saying, well, if only I was like this, then everybody will love me. The critic is always comparing and to you to this unrealistic standard. This creates a shame-based, shame-fueled system, which the brain thinks. So this is the important part that I missed. The brain thinks it's solving the problem, but it's making it worse. So the brain goes into hyperactivity, and it's just like, we need to be good enough. We need to be good enough. But what you do will never be good enough. So it creates this internal shame cycle, as it were. I've got it written here, the internal shame-based parent. But we'll develop that later into something different. This is all happening on a subconscious level, so you won't even realize it. People that don't tune into these voices or are just being dominated by their own voices, the dominant feeling is just this fear all the time. They just fear that if they stop, then they're going to be found out. And it just creates a horrible cycle, and everyone that's been in it understands. So we have this system now in our brains that thinks it's solving the shame, but it's actually just making it worse. It's reinforcing the shame. And so obviously shame's feeding itself. It's reinforcing. This system fractures in many ways. So what I'm giving you here is the basis of what I want to develop later, which is something called parts. How we are inherently given ways to solve this, but if the shame and the pain gets blended with different parts of us, and it isn't until we unblend from those parts, we understand those parts and how they are us, and we don't have bad parts. Okay, this is the key, that we can move through this and move past this. Okay, so stick with this, and let's get to the next video.